And you were back on the Tortoise and Hare Experience. Yeah.
That's where we're at.
Yeah.
That's right.
How's it going, Max?
It's going good, Turtle. How are you?
You know, a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Disjointed?
Disjointed.
Yeah.
Why?
Okay. This only happens to me in the winter. And I sleep later. I don't know if I'm like part bear or not.
Well, you look like a bear with the
fur?
Chops and
Chicks dig the fur.
Nobody digs that.
Well,
trust me.
It's just not your style.
Well,
that's all.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting chop.
Right?
But you're talking about his hair?
Well, you know.
I like it. It's all messy.
Thank you.
It's become a thing. Mm-hmm. It's become a thing. You know. He stays warm in the winter.
It was funny because I was just having this conversation with Jose, and I was telling him, I was like, this look is extremely generational. So depending on the generation that you grew up, you'll call me something different. Like the older crowd calls me Elvis, the younger crowd calls me Wolverine, but like the in-betweeners call me Austin Powers. So it's like extremely generational. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay. So when you did that, like Jose started laughing. I was like, oh my god, that's why.
It's just me desperately clinging to my youth.
But I woke up super late. Like usually I wake up like 2 hours before I have to come here, which is about like 9:30, 10 o'clock. And I woke up at like 11:45, and I have to leave my house by 12 in order to get here by 1 to set everything up. And I woke up at 11:30, and I was just like, holy guacamole, what am I gonna do? Here's the crazy part. Maybe this has happened to you. I don't know. I'm wearing the same clothes from yesterday.
Ew.
The only thing I changed were my socks.
Yeah, just gross.
Is that a weird thing? Like, do people do that? Do they just rock the same like jeans and pants like for like 2-3 days?
I wouldn't have changed the socks. I think you were trying too hard with that. I mean, if you're gonna go like saving laundry, just save the socks too, man.
I wear I literally have one pair of pants. This is it.
That's it?
I wear them every day. I change everything except my pants.
I'm worried for you.
No, they're black pants, and they don't really get dirty. I mean, if they do,
What
I
do you
wash
mean
them.
they don't get dirty? Of course they get dirty.
But I
You
wash
sweat.
them. No, I don't.
Your
Well,
body.
I don't.
You don't sweat. You're the only human that doesn't sweat.
Well, I don't exercise in my jeans, so
I see.
when I do, I put shorts on. But I wear the same pants. I know people think it's odd or like gross, but yeah.
Okay, good. So me and you are on the same. Yeah. I should just rock these for like a couple more days.
I did change my underwear though.
You got 2 days in them. You got 2 days in them. You're good.
No, that's so weird.
Underwear is weird. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, when I was on the road with Tantric, the bus was always a disaster, and it's hard when you're on the road. You're trying to get your laundry done, and it's always up to me because the manager.
Yeah.
What?
Always.
Managers do that for you?
Well, this one
Good
does.
managers.
This one
Good
does.
managers do.
And so but no matter what I wash, Hugo would put the same clothes on, like the same nasty one that he just slept with like 16 girls.
Right.
Those are lucky. Those are lucky clothes.
Obviously, those are the lucky ones.
Otherwise, you're not going to get 17.
Exactly.
No, but it's bad. When you pick up the pants and they're like hard. They're like like cardboard.
Crusty.
Yeah,
I heard that
nasty.
when
Wash your damn
Iggy
thing.
Pop auctioned off a pair of his leather pants that they stood up all on their own. Like they had them. They just literally like the leather was so hard you could mold it to the shape.
Because he never.
Yeah, it's leather.
What do you do with leather? Just dry clean or? I don't know.
Are there any leather experts out there?
Dry clean.
Give us a call.
Yeah, there are
comment.
There's no
leather
way you wash
experts.
those.
I think you oil
It's
them
true.
like a baseball glove.
Right?
Wrap a rubber band around it. You're on the couch.
That's smelly, but your body flakes off. Every
for
like
sure.
24 hours, you're
Every
like
7
a
years,
snake,
you're
so
a
you're
new
like
person.
different person.
I guess my pants are nasty then.
I'm sitting between some nasty junk over here.
By the way, we're with Gemini Syndrome.
We are with Gemini Syndrome.
Yeah.
With Meegs and Brian from Gemini Syndrome.
New guy here.
Yeah, Meegs is the new addition to the band. You replaced Rich, right?
Well,
Ooh, them fighting words.
Rich was
Right, I
the
got-
original member, and then there has been several others, but I guess I replaced all of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them in a
technically,
row.
yeah, so not just Rich. It would be.
But he was the main.
He was
guy,
the original.
The original.
Yeah,
So
yeah, for sure.
the in between.
And then the in betweeners.
Whatever.
Is that an interesting thing to walk in on? Do you ever think of that, or is it like just like well, whatever? I'm just not part of the band, so it's cool.
Well, it would be. I feel for this scenario, it felt really normal because I've been friends with him for a long time, and actually with the rest of the bands, but him longer. I've seen the beginning of the band. I've seen it. I've seen him at shows. I've seen him recording. I've seen him personally just going out and just doing birthday stuff. So we've been always friends. And I guess if it was a different scenario where it was something I had to audition in terms of like some brand new band I've never been around with, it would feel weirder. But this feels like, oh yeah, it feels like I've always been in the band. Kind of in a sort of weird way, but
Yeah, it was real close.
it doesn't feel odd because it's like I said, if you go into a scenario that's new and it's a little odd and a little awkward. But
I have a picture of when we were in the studio, very very first day recording the vocal demos, and you were
with
there.
Doling,
Yeah,
I was there.
Yeah, I mean, it was there like
It was meant to be.
every step of the way. Yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah.
perfect. It's
Yeah.
it really couldn't be more perfect.
Yeah.
And the way it came about was funny because we had a really really bad audition with this one guy one day, and and we were
Tommy
just
Gibson.
that might have been it. That might have been
They're
it.
not gonna. These guys are nice. They're not
We're
going to
consummate
Yeah, but-
professionals.
Like,
I'm not.
You're none.
Yeah. And it's my show.
our show.
I
Our
fired him
show.
from Tantric. So.
So we were just kind of venting and like saying, "Ah, man, why can't we just find someone cool like Meegs?" And then like we literally looked at each other. Me and AP looked at each other with this like weird light bulb look, and I was like, and I'm like, "Hey, dude," and it was super funny, even funnier than I in hindsight. I think we were literally hanging out like by your apartment at Jamba Juice a couple days before that, and
Yeah,
I
me
was
and you.
also venting that I
Yeah.
couldn't find a guitar player, and we
Yeah.
were just like, "Oh man, well, I hope you'll find someone."
you go get him, dude.
We never.
You know,
it was
it's
so
funny.
It was like two best friends that just like are meant to be in love, and you're just like, "Oh well,
Yeah, that's funny. We were having Jamba Juice a few nights or days before that, and he was talking about that. It's weird. I was like, oh wow,
Because we've just been friends for so long that just like the idea just never
Yeah.
crossed our mind. It was almost kind of like we were used to like, oh well, we had our time, and
yeah, for sure.
So have you completely left your other bands now?
Yeah, well, that's what kind of was magical about it is that I was already not doing at that specific time when he goes, dude, would you be willing to? I go, well, as a matter of fact, I'm not gonna do any of these bands anymore because of situations that we got in, and it's perfect. So
Yeah.
it kind of you asked me at the right time.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
perfect, right place, right time.
when you guys are at Jamba Juice, do you believe in those powders that they put in? Like, there's like this is the grass powder. It's gonna,
sure.
like this is the protein.
I think
powder,
a lot of it might be mental, maybe.
Yeah.
So as long as it works for you mentally, it works.
This dillweed will make
Yeah.
you hard like an ox.
Can I get double dillweed on my?
Don't tell him things like that because he's going to be eating the dill.
Dillweed is gonna make you hard.
Deal.
Nice. So, Turtle, that was your experience?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because,
Wow.
for all of our listeners, we always start the show with an experience because we are the Tortoise and the Hare Experience. So, do you guys have an experience you want to share with us?
Well, I mean,
Something you're going through recently?
Or not.
I mean, I gave up sugar today, so I'm
Wow.
like 6 hours
big
into
day.
it, and I thought I'd be grumpy, and I've heard nothing but horror stories from all my friends. They're like, "Oh, dude, it's gonna be so hard," And I've just compensated by just drinking a lot of coffee so far. So I haven't really felt the effects.
Yeah.
So I'll see.
You'd be surprised with sugar, like you were talking about. There's a lot. There's sugar in everything. Almost.
Everything.
Not just like gummy bears. I'm talking about like fruits.
There's
and
no sugar in
and
gummy bears. How
obviously.
dare you?
They're not.
That's cartilage.
There's
Everyone
just-
knows that.
Just THC.
Because I'm really into. Well, I used to be addicted to gummy bears, but
Yes.
now I just eat like cranberries or raisins or fruit.
Regular gummy bears or the ones
The
that
sour
are like-
ones.
Both. I love both. I love sour.
You'd probably dip
anything.
yours in cayenne pepper.
Yeah, but
Ah,
if there's, I like.
That
I love
sounds
spicy.
amazing.
Yeah.
What is your stance on the gummy worm? Everybody. loves-
I love them too.
But it was just a gummy bear because they're just so
It's just
small.
a
And
small
you're
and
just,
perfect
I
little
think
bite.
Yeah.
they're too chewy.
oh,
What,
you're-
the-
You're
gummy-
committing to a large mouth of gummy. When
No,
you go
but
with the
I don't. I
gummy
never.
worm.
Yeah,
I never
you
throw it
are.
all in my mouth. That's the thing. Every time I chew it, it's like the same size as a gummy bear.
Did you ever get into the gummy lifesavers? Those were amazing
Those are
too.
great.
Those are good.
Yeah.
Those are
Those
good.
are really good.
I don't allow gummy bears or any gummy substance
In
in
here.
the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't need them anymore, but I used to be very addicted.
Yeah.
to that.
People
Share
are
your stories.
irresponsible.
Hashtag gummy life.
Right?
We're looking forward to
That's right.
hearing all about it.
By the way, name of the next album, Gummy Life.
Gummy
you know,
life.
Yeah.
delish.
Oh,
Benji.
I knew it. I knew
Yeah.
it.
Arrow likes
See?
gummy.
He's like,
What's your motivation?
right? Immediately.
Emote. He's emoting. That's what Arrow does.
Why me? Why? Oh, he has a bone at me.
Yes,
He
he's like,
boned me.
yeah.
He's-
All of our
Boned.
listeners know about Arrow because
That's
he has to say hello and let you know
It's a
that yes, yeah, you can't tell by the gigantic.
and that bone, by the way, that
There
bone
is
has
bone.
no sugar in it, so you're fine to play with it.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Take a bite.
But that is weird because everything does have sugar in it.
Yeah.
So are you more conscious of labels and
Very conscious of labels. I'm pretty much. I know. I know what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna eat vegetables for
Okay.
a couple weeks. I'm just gonna pretty much start by going vegan on it, but without any of the breads or.
but you're
No.
still gonna eat the meat, right?
I'm gonna take a week off of meat.
Ugh.
I'm gonna just completely do a system
Cleanse.
shock right now.
Whoa.
I'm gonna a week, just vegetables and coffee and protein powder, vegan protein powder, and a non-sugar sweetener for my coffee in the morning, and that's what I'm gonna stick to for a week. And then I'm gonna reintroduce meats and tofu and beans the second week.
I just did the McRib. It was amazing.
Yeah, dude.
You're missing out.
Oh,
I just-
McRib. That McRib is.
That's
It's
the one
back, man.
That's the one that's shaped as if it has
Yeah.
ribs in it, but there's no ribs.
But it's amazing.
It's amazing.
It really is actually. I don't eat McDonald's, but when I have, it's McRib. That's
You know
it.
what's funny
You got to.
is my favorite thing from McDonald's ever was I lived in Holland for a couple of years. and
Holland.
They have
my Holland.
they have this meat out there called a sausijsebrossen, and it's like a deep fried patty, kind of like almost like a crab cake, but it's with pork, right? And in Holland they have a sausijsebrossen, and you can get this thing, and it's like a crab cake sandwich on a but made like we have a fish fillet. You know?
Oh, sounds absolutely
Oh,
delicious.
it's so insane, so good.
You guys need to do tour out there in Holland just for that.
I'm very excited, and yeah, we could go to.
Right?
I love it out there. It's so beautiful. I know. Go to a coffee shop where they don't have coffee.
They don't have coffee.
Not at the coffee shops.
What the heck?
Yeah, they just have weed.
That's
Yeah,
Oh,
some of them have
Sacrilege.
coffee as well.
Yeah.
They do
see, I don't
coffee.
do the weed. I don't do the weeds.
she doesn't.
You,
Really?
I don't.
But I do. So any
don't
weed that
either.
you want to give to her, just
You don't
Yeah,
smoke the
everybody else in
reefers?
the house does.
No.
Not me.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
stopped weed when I was 19 after a long weekend of sleeping from eating too many pot brownies.
whoa.
And I slept like 48 hours, and I woke up like having to go to work. Like my weekend was gone, and I was like, "This is not right." And then I stopped it.
isn't
Then
good.
Yeah.
So we're gonna hear another song.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, for sure. It wouldn't be a good song. Oh, by the way, we just heard "Remember We Die." That was the first song.
Yeah, because like you know, you
Well,
totally jumped
sometimes,
in,
well,
in
yeah,
a weird
sometimes
way
you
with
just
the
get
show
into
this
it, and
week.
just the way it works sometimes.
Yeah, we just have a lot of songs to play, and I want to make sure that we play a lot of them in between.
Yeah, thank you. But by the way, thank you guys for giving us tons of your music to play.
Yes, because it's badass.
It's cool. You know,
It's all right. It's all right.
Max, you know what, Max? Just real quick, Max. I love you, but you're always talking up these guests. You know, and not that they don't deserve it, but it's just like, come on, like you gotta make them work. You know, a little bit.
I have to make them work. They work hard enough. Are you kidding me?
You know, they can work a little bit harder.
Oh my God. You know, it's you that does nothing. Zero.
Right. Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
I contribute nothing to the
You
this
really,
occurrence.
you don't. He sets up the mics.
Yeah, that's it. I just sit here and just
Stardust.
Stardust, by the way, which we were all made up of. Do you guys believe that?
We are.
Well, it's not whether we believe it; it's a scientific fact.
Well, yeah.
Science.
I want to tell all the vegans you're made up of stardust. So
Yeah.
it's like you're not even. You can't be vegan.
Yeah.
There has to be meat in that stardust.
Yeah, there's meat in
No,
the star.
there doesn't have to be
there-
meat in the Stardust.
But that's a scientific fact, Max. Jeez. We were talking about upcoming experiences. You wanted to share, Migs, about a bachelor party?
It was just I went to Bakersfield with a bunch of friends, and
First mistake.
yeah, we got it was like your typical without the naked girls, but
Wait,
it was, yeah,
it was typical with that. No, typical is naked girls.
right? No, but what was funny is that everyone brought weed, and then like one of my friends was, "Hey man, you want to do acid?" And I was like, "Yeah." I mean, it's just a bunch of dudes. What can go wrong?
What can go wrong? What can go wrong?
So
I love your thought. I
Bakersfield.
love your thought
Yeah.
process.
So
Brilliant.
he goes, "It's mild as hell," and I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." Best time I've had in a long time because I used to do acid, not a lot, but I've done it in my past, and I remember going, "God, that was fun stuff," and it is.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Did you talk to the God and the devil?
No, it wasn't that crazy.
Well, it's mild. Now I didn't know
It
that
was
there was
mild.
mild acid.
Yeah,
You're
I
like, no,
guess
I
there
talked to
is.
like Deepak Chopra, like Hartol. God,
No, you know what
on
it was?
vacation.
I had my friend Mike. Everyone was going so like foolish. It was just a bunch of dudes. Everyone was smoking weed, doing mushrooms, acid, and it was.
Jeez,
There was
Wow.
that
was
is a
fun.
bachelor party.
It was, but it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun because we were all just laughing. And it was, yeah, that
Have
was
you-
my experience.
Have you ever thought of your perfect bachelor party?
It would involve naked girls.
It would.
Yeah.
It would. You know, my
Your
mine
wife
says
wouldn't like that.
No,
though.
she doesn't care.
Yeah.
No.
Really?
your wife wouldn't like.
She was like, "Why don't you guys go to a strip club?" Okay, I don't think everyone's high. They can't leave the house. We can't go to it. We're not gonna get into a car or Uber right now. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be bad.
I was just thinking, like, if I was ever lucky enough to like meet a chick and she was like ever like lucky enough to like want me to like like marry her and stuff like that. I was like, oh man, what? And I've always thought of this. I thought the most perfect bachelor party for me would be to watch the Lord of the Ring trilogy extended version, like from like 6 in.
Are we talking with like the bonus footage?
Yes,
also? All right,
yes,
that's good.
yes, from like 6 in till it ends, like nonstop. Watching that while playing some cards.
This is
And,
exactly why you don't have any
Oh yeah,
girls in your life.
yeah, but I
That's
mean,
the Andy Kaufman
Yeah.
bachelor party.
exactly.
Well, there would be wrestling involved with Andy Kaufman.
Wrestling
There
women.
would be at least that.
I'd be wrestling women. By the way, did you see that Netflix Andy Kaufman, Jim
So
Carrey,
brilliant.
That was intense.
Beyond Intense?
I had no idea he did that.
Yeah.
He
No,
just,
no
like-
one did.
Yeah. Do you know about that? So Jim
No.
Carrey, when he took on that role as Andy Kaufman,
I didn't see it.
he basically pretended to be Andy Kaufman.
No, he was.
Well,
we
but
just
like but he wasn't Jim Carrey, and he wouldn't let you call him Jim, and he acted like Andy Kaufman, and then he full on did the alternate character, the crazy guy with that looks like Wolverine.
Yeah.
And he was just in character the whole time, and he tortured the director and all the cast members, and he just like
Tony
he was
Clifton.
Andy
was
Kaufman.
Yeah.
the
yeah,
other
yeah.
name.
And he was, and dude, there's all this footage of like him like crying with his sister and the dad, and
they really believed
Yeah.
that it was like Andy was coming through Jim.
Yeah.
It was
and he
amazing.
pissed off Jim Lore, the wrestler guy. Like,
Oh,
he
yeah.
kept on smacking him around and putting stick-it signs, and like they got in a legit fight. Like
Yeah.
Is this a movie or documentary?
it's a
or-
documentary.
It's a documentary of the making of the movie.
Yeah.
Is that
Man in the
what's the
Moon.
name of that movie? 'Cause
Man in the Moon.
Well,
I
that's the name of the
haven't seen
movie.
that, but I've been wanting to see that.
But the
Yeah,
name of
you should.
the name of the documentary was called like Jim and
Jim
Andy
and
and
Andy.
Jen. Yeah, yeah,
Andy
yeah.
and Jim.
Is it it's on Netflix, kind of thing?
It's
Yeah.
on the Netflix.
It's on
It's
there.
really, really
Netflix.
good.
Netflix and
I just watched it a
It's
couple
brilliant.
days ago. Yeah.
Me too. And the crazy part was they had this footage like years ago, but the studio didn't want to release any of it because they were just afraid that Jim was going to appear as an asshole, because at the time Jim was considered the most lovable man like in
$20
America.
million man.
Yeah, but he was like lovable and everybody really like liked him, so they're just like, dude, you really look like an asshole, so we're not gonna release his footage. So it took years later until all that footage finally came out, and Jim is going through his own thing right now too.
Well, I think that film puts a lot of that into context.
Yeah, it
And
does.
kind of shows you where that journey started with him, and because where he was at right before he did that movie, and everything he's he's become a meme of himself lately, and I think it's not only just him. I think it's kind of interesting how that's become a prevalent theme in a lot of just, whether it's social media or whether it's just kind of like what's getting put out there right now, is a lot of people are into that whole self-discovery and not really turning their backs on, it's almost like we're where we were in the 80s with the materialism and the Dallasness and like the whole thing where we became very stuck in that, and we kind of found a different version of that now. And that version of it doesn't necessarily involve like diamonds and fancy cars, but it involves like social media and like narcissism and like selfies, and it's like a different version of that. And people are recognizing it and speaking out against it or trying to live against that, and it's hard because it's really addicting. We're all super connected, and we're becoming like ego addicts, and where we have to. It's become the social norm to document every moment of our life, whether it's like, oh, here's my coffee, here's my kale shake, here's my
Right.
thing. Oh, I'm doing
You
this,
have
guys.
to.
Everyone has to know. Let me see how many likes I can get, and it becomes fully addicting.
Well, if you don't take a photo of it, it didn't happen.
Right.
Okay.
Never
It's
happened.
all just hearsay.
You
Yeah.
can have no experiences.
and
in
there's no
life.
other real version of life other than waking up and like doing a line or hitting a bong or like taking a shot of vodka that could equate to the dopamine release that happens when you wake up, and the first thing you just do, you're checking your Instagram, you're checking your Facebook, you're checking your email, you're getting that dopamine hit, and it's not just adults, it's teenagers, it's kids, it's preteens, and everyone is like addicted to this thing, but it's completely, and we're entering new territory, so we don't know how to deal with it. You
Right.
know? It's just like when cocaine first came out, they're like, oh, let's put it in Coca-Cola. That's fine. Let's make
Sure.
everyone's on heroin. And then it takes people 50 years to figure out, oh, shit, that's not
That's
good.
why it's so good.
And there's people out there that I have friends that don't have social media, and I like envy that, because just for what we do, it's almost impossible not to do that, because
Well,
we're
we have to,
expected
yeah.
to put ourselves out there. But then you do cross a threshold where I have a bunch of friends that that are in bands, but they cross that threshold. Well, like Chester Bennington never had a Facebook page that you could add him on, or you're not gonna see Steven Tyler out there, like, oh, this is my salmon sandwich,
Steven Tyler has
Yeah.
an
That'd be
Instagram.
hilarious.
But then they find other ways that people have oh, well, I'm not gonna have a Facebook, but I'll have an Instagram, and if I don't have an Instagram,
Right.
I'll have a Twitter, and it's something out
Snapchat.
there, and it's hard to be invisible out there, and if
Yeah.
you are, it's almost kind of weird, and you almost put your business, if you are a business person, at risk of not doing that.
But isn't everybody a business person?
I'm not. I'm the
I mean-
worst business person ever. I don't
True.
consider myself, because I just live. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey man, if you want to do something with me, it's cool.
Well, we live out here in California, where it's a lot more prevalent for people to be independent and broken out of the system. But when you travel a lot for work, and you go to like the Midwest, and you just see a lot of these places where you get the vibe where, if you're in Nebraska or Iowa or that region of the country, you really get a sense that everyone is kind of living that suburban life, like where we would relegate it to, oh, that's just in Santa Clarita and Rancho Cucamonga where they do that. You know what I mean? Like out here, we're very like entrepreneurial, but that's just the environment that we live in, and we feed off of that, and that it's survival of the fittest. So you try to like be the last man standing and don't give up and never quit. And but it's a lot of people just married their high school sweetheart and still go like, dude, when I go back to Denver, and I don't mean this in any sort of rude way, but it's always interesting for me to see like my friends that are just from high school, or they go to the Broncos games and they have their house and they have their kids, and they're still paying off their student loan from college, and now they're on their third car, and they just got this new house and they got a second mortgage out on it, and it's just like, let's just figure out how many ways we can put ourselves in debt to the banks and regulate ourselves to a life of working to pay off this debt. And it's such a trip for me because I see it, and I want to, part of me wants to get all zeitgeist on it and be like, oh, this is just part of the, the grand conspiracy to keep us all under the thumb of the banks and the money. And the other part of me is like, well, this is not everyone's meant to, that's the whole definition of freedom. Like there are going to be people that want to go out there and create and be artists and be athletes and be musicians and be art and go that route. But there's nothing wrong with someone who's passionate about just being a good father or being a good mother and doing that and providing for their family, because those are the things that we look back on with very we look up to that, from our history, like the good father, and he worked really hard in the steel mines and like provided for his family, and that's awesome. And if anything, like we're way more selfish now than we used to be. So it's such a trip, man. Like it's hard for me to even like have a position on it. I just, because I respect it all, and they couldn't exist without each other.
Do you think you would want that for yourself? I mean, like in an alternate universe or something like that, or do you think this was always like meant for you?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question. I think that I've had that before. I've probably had that before in another existence, and I think that's why I feel so free to not have that in this existence. I really believe in a version of reincarnation, and not in a way where like you're quite literally, I lived a life. It could be I've lived. See, one version of it is like, oh well, I had a life where I lived from 1776 and I died in 1823, and then I like floated around in the ether for a while, and now I was born in 78. Or it's a multi-universe where we've all lived multiple existences, and where Sinbad was a genie in a movie and Fruit Loops was spelled properly. It's like everything can be
spelled wrong.
I'm like Sinbad the comedian.
Yeah. Are you guys like
he really was a genie?
Have you like dug into the Mandela effect and that whole thing?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking
I
about?
haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Oh, dude, there's all these people that have like false memories, collective false memories. Like thousands and thousands of people like believe that Sinbad was this character in this genie movie, and it wasn't Shaquille O'Neal. And how all these people believe that Fruit Loops. There's some people that remember Fruit Loops being spelled F-R-O-O-T Loops, and some people remember it spelling properly F-R-U-I-T. And some
people that believe that it's a program.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not a good program.
So I don't know, man. It's crazy. Like how where we are right now is definitely it. Is a point of change. But then even as I say those words, I feel that everyone always thinks that, like at any point, like whenever I used to get in these like conversations, with my family growing up, it's like, oh yeah, well we thought the world was gonna end, and like that Jesus was on his way, and like that we were gonna die from a bomb like back then too. And it just seems that like until it ends, like for real, until we get smashed by a comet and melt all the glaciers.
We have nuclear weapons that'll destroy that comet, and then the nuclear waste will fall on us, and then we evolve.
I was just having this conversation with Michael Pere. Michael was a guest on our show recently.
By the way, if you need to go back on to entertheshow.com, check out that specific show. Amazing.
That episode. Yeah. Anyway. Michael's fantastic. And it's so funny how our past like 3 or 4 guests have all kind of been on that same wavelength, with vibrating in that different dimension. And Michael was talking about, that there is a big change that's going to occur. And he believes that it's an alien existence that's going to come, and show its
really
face.
Arrow.
And it's Arrow because, he's from the land of Point.
You know what? I just real quick. I read this article, and I don't know where I read it or what. Dude, I'm sure you guys always have something in the back. Yeah, I know it's crazy, right? And it was about cats, and how cats
See, that's exactly what I thought.
are really the aliens, and like they're here and they couldn't figure out how to
scoping it out.
Yeah, they were like, oh, we can't figure out how to enslave these people, but we'll just enslave them one by one by being like in their house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just when you said that, I was like, oh my god, I don't know. I thought that was hilarious.
That could be. There, but well, if you think about it in terms of that, Leos are really the rulers of the world,
Like cats.
Well, Leo the lion, so astrologically, they're the
frisky
ruler
feline.
of all of the signs, and then
Are they really?
yes,
Okay.
they are.
I don't know.
It's a scientific
It's,
fact.
Yeah, sorry.
Science.
I didn't read my horoscope. Leo's rule. Oh, all right.
Leo's rule,
Like,
because
all
they're,
right.
sun. And
Okay.
The sun rules the planet, and Leo's rule.
Well, I'm a
the earth.
Capricorn, so that
Yeah,
means I'm a
sorry.
goat. So that means I can eat anything, right? Or
well,
something.
Yeah, maybe not sugar.
Not sugar. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
because
It's bad
sugar's
for
a bad thing from
It's the greatest thing
what
ever.
Brian's
I'm
telling
like,
us.
it's the
Yeah,
greatest.
sure, yeah, we're just addicts. It's all good.
Yeah. But cats really do. They walk around your house. They take over. They have an attitude that you can't mess with them, and they're just gonna like, whatever.
Not only that, but like I'm on the dating websites and stuff like that, and like 9 out of 10 girls are like, if you have a cat, just swipe whatever it is to not know you.
Yeah, I don't want to know you.
Yeah, I don't want to know you. And I'm like, what? Why? Like, what did the cat ever do to you? I don't know. Weird.
Do you have cats?
No, I have nothing. I have myself. I just
Yeah,
wake
that's
up.
what I
I just
thought.
wake up and
Yeah.
I'm just there alone with my thoughts. I go days sometimes without even talking to anybody, and just like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not
mean-
lucky like you guys that have people to like around them and stuff.
Dude, bro, just text me, man. That's cool.
I will.
Yeah.
Dude. I will.
Make me feel really
Don't
bad.
think I won't.
Don't put that out there. You don't
Especially
know.
like at 3 or 4 in the morning when I'm just up and I'm just like, fuck, dude. I can't go to sleep. TV bores me. I'm just like, what? Well, I mean, TV bores me like at 3 or 4 in the morning, but like at like 6 or 7, I'm like,
Oh, it's great.
is there a hockey
Yeah.
game
Oh,
on,
dude.
or like is there a football game? Yeah.
Bachelorette, come on, forget about it.
Don't tell me you watch The Bachelorette.
I haven't had a
Okay.
TV in like 5 years. I mean, I have like a Fire Stick with Netflix and YouTube.
That's what
Yeah.
I do. I've been on a YouTube kick with Howard Stern.
Oh yeah.
Just for some reason, I've been always a fan, but like as of late, more than ever, because it's like a stupid world of like just
The brilliance.
just these characters, and
Oh yeah.
so I go on Howard TV and watch.
Yeah.
They're short sometimes the episodes, so it's kind of easy just to go from one to one.
Yeah.
That's fun.
We're very Howard Sternish.
Yeah.
That kind of
That's-
show,
that's my-
except
that's
for
my
That like being Yiddish.
I'm. Oh really?
Oy vey.
A gut and you. So yesterday I was treating a patient because for our listeners,
Reiki?
that I was
Did I say
doing
that right?
a holistic healing because I'm a holistic practitioner. And
Is that different from the Reiki?
It's part of it. I do
Okay.
Reiki in that, and I do past life regression and multidimensional quantum healing, and
Obviously.
yeah, and
Okay.
and all the regular doctor stuff, the doctory crap.
She'll pop your back really good.
No, I won't. I'm not a chiropractor.
Oh, I'm
Thank
good
you,
at popping
Joe
backs.
Rogan. Are you? Well, we'll have to see.
Yeah. You have to
Right. So I'm treating this patient yesterday, and a very special girl who had a brain tumor, and I have her on the table, and sometimes I get these like messages from the energy that's around, and it I kind of work it into whatever it is that's going on in their body, and her great grandfather kind of came into play and said, get out some holy water and give her the holy water and put it in her hand.
So Garrison Jameson.
Right. And
Smart.
and here's the like the freakiness of this. The holy water that I put in her hand, her great grandmother had given to me from Lourdes. And so trippy number one, trippy number two, there's a giant clock that sits by the bench where I work on my patients, and there's no movement in the clock, so there's no batteries and there's not a movement in there.
Right.
And I said to her, "Do you hear that clock ticking?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I said, "That's never ticked before." Like, it was so trippy. And we both were like sat up and like, what the heck? Yeah, it was really interesting.
Trippy. Number 3, who has holy water on them?
Yeah.
Like
On tap.
yeah,
ready to
on
go.
tap. Like what?
I do.
I never walk in like I need a holy water scenario immediately. Let me just go to my local church and like siphon some
you
out.
need to get with God
No, I don't.
all over you.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, I'm all about the light and traveling towards the light in a positive way, and having everybody in that same kind of vibrational space where it's, whatever it is that we're creating, music, film, it's all energy and it's what we're leaving behind. So it should be positive.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, other than the way I speak to you,
Right.
I
All
think
negative.
I'm nice to everybody else in the world. It's just you for some reason.
No, I think it's I give you a license to
Yeah,
be like that.
Well,
I think that's just what that is. And you,
when you show up like this,
what?
that's what happens.
The same clothes since yesterday. Yes.
Exactly.
What's wrong with that?
So you're vibrating in a duller sense because there's all sorts of dead skin all over you.
No, dude.
But it's alien skin, so it's all.
Yeah, the Chargers are like right now is 6-6. They can
The
make a run for the
Chargers
table.
suck.
They can make a run for the table. This might be championship shirt, man.
It's
we don't
not going
know.
to happen.
We
like
don't
your
know.
Dodgers,
This
it
could be
didn't
How
happen.
dare you? How dare you mention
I know.
that? You bitch.
Well, look, the Eagles lost the other day. I almost cried my little head off.
Yeah.
I was like
That game
very
number
traumatized
7. I'll
over
tell you what.
the Eagles.
Yeah.
Well, I'm an East Coast girl.
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah, it's cool. No
I
worries.
don't know about your West Coast teams
It's
over
all
here.
about the West Side, man. Come on.
Yeah.
You guys, you're from Denver, obviously. And Meeks, where are you from?
Like born or raised?
Born
Born in Mexicali.
Mexicali. Oh, cool.
Yeah, but I was raised in LA all my life
All right, that's cool.
since I was a little baby.
As
I have to whistle with that. I can't even whistle right.
well, that's Mexicali.
That's
That's
the
That's your
salsa.
Mexicali in the mix.
Yeah, but I've been in LA since I was like, I think it was 1,
Oh yeah.
2, or something like that. Something where I was literally a baby.
Have you noticed any changes here that are,
In LA?
shifting your consciousness?
Not really sure how to answer that.
Like, do you find that people are more positive now than they were before? As you grow as a Los Angeles.
I mean, my
Linos.
experiences have been
Linos?
better.
Lino.
My experiences have been better. I mean, because when I was growing up, it was difficult for me, but just bully stuff, but it's stupid kid stuff. And then, just being kind of an Asian-looking guy, because I'm Asian Mexican,
Mm-hmm.
Chinese Mexican. So, I never fit in, I was always in a Mexican neighborhood. So, going with that, and so now that I became, once I was an adult, a young adult, became a rock dude.
A rock.
It's been a lot easier. Everything's just.
But you've been a
smoother.
rock dude for a
For a long
long time.
Yeah, I am
from
old, Max.
Cold Chamber to all
Yeah.
the bands that you've been in, they're
Yeah.
all successful bands.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I've been around the rock circuit and rock guys and girls for a long time, so it's been positive. ever
Yeah,
Since I've
which
yeah.
is weird because rock and positive usually don't go
Don't
hand
go
in
well.
hand.
no, I mean, I've had like positive in terms of just being around like guys like him or
Mhm.
it's been good. I mean, there's some bad stuff, there's negative stuff, but I think overall I've had a good experience, blessed experience in terms of being like in Cold Chamber, and now
Mhm.
that I'm part of the Gemini family, it's a positive and really they've been welcoming, which is great, and also because we're friends, so and welcoming. It's really nice to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that, like, Hollywood has changed for the the scene, the
This-
rock scene,
It has
like
changed. I mean,
clubs.
I've like after Culture, we had a band. So I've had bands. He's gone on to become Gemini Syndrome, and they've been touring. So while they were touring, the scene, the local scene in Hollywood has. I've seen it. So unlike these guys, these guys have been on tour and all that. So they haven't really been seeing the scene. But I've seen how it shifts and bands go in and out and styles of music, and it's getting. At one point, there was a really really big, nice camaraderie in terms of bands and stuff, and everyone helping each other. But now it's just there's no more clubs. That's the thing. There's
Yeah.
there's no more Roxy. Or there is Roxy, but there's no more
Yeah, it's
Roxy
only
holding.
national.
It's all national acts.
But we had to start that. Like, what's funny? Cause
Yeah.
Because the thing that I noticed was, I mean, I moved out here in 2000, and when I moved out here, the scene was just having an uprising. Like,
Yeah.
it was like that's when System of a Down and Static X and Coal Chamber and all these LA bands kind of were coming up after these what seemed to be like overnight successes of like Rage Against the Machine, and I mean, basically there was a period of time when Warrant, She's My Cherry Pie, and Damn Yankees, like Uncle Tom's Cabin, was like dominating the charts, and then within a blink of an eye, Nirvana and Alice in Chains and all these bands just took over. And
Seattle scene.
and then that trickled down into what was coming out of LA, and I moved here right at that time, and that was a very exciting time. And the thing that I noticed at that time is everyone was friends. Like Schnott was friends with System of a Down, was friends with Coal Chamber, was friends with Korn, was friends with Deftones. They were all friends. The Southern California scene was really tight. And then I went through my whole journey with my band at that time, and I came out the other side of that in 2008, having gone down the path of doing drugs real hard for 4 years, and I came out of that fog and looked around at the scene, and there was no fucking scene. And all I knew at the time was that there were these 6 bands, that they're kind of the most popular bands on the local scene, and there was no even semblance of having national acts coming through the sunset. So when we last left it, what we would do is there was this thing at the Troubadour where they would have free shows on Mondays.
The Troop.
And so I really quickly, I don't know where I had come up with the idea, but I'd heard I was listening to a lot of Eminem and 50 Cent and I think D12 or is that what they're called, and I was really fascinated at the idea of how Dr. Dre begat Snoop Dogg, begat Eminem, 50 Cent, and it just went down the line. And then it was a whole other scene with Strange Music with Tech Nine and all the dudes that he was bringing up, and I was like, dude, rap is kicking our fucking ass right now because they're teaming up and they're doing it together.
Right.
And so literally before we had even finished recording the demos, I was already compiling bands to do our first show. And we put our very first show together at the Roxy, and I sandwiched us right in between a 6-band bill with every band that was good, that was willing to do the show. We had Old Dirty Bastard and Yeti and Shovel and all the bands that were kind of the popular bands at that time. And it was so hard because no one wanted to go before anyone. No one wanted to go on too late. No one wanted to go on too early.
Politics.
Yeah. So all I had to do was navigate that. And we ended up playing our first show at a sold-out Roxy at 10:30 p.m. and it was fucking crazy. And we're like, oh shit. And then we did our next show at the Troubadour. I was able to get a hold of Lena at the Troubadour, and it was the first time that they hadn't done a free show since we were doing free shows back in mid 2000s. And this was in 2010 probably, early 2010. And so we did a free show at the Troubadour, and then called Brian at the Roxy, and we're like, hey man, what do you guys think about giving Troubadour a little competition? And then we ended up starting this thing, and they called it Metal Monday.
Right.
And before you know it, like any band that was in LA was on this thing, like Butcher Babies and Evolove and like We Are the Riot and like Shovel and and it just all of a sudden exploded into this thing, and it was like the master plan worked, because like all we wanted to do was get everyone together, because having like whatever like the good band is with like 5 locals that aren't like pulling or they're selling tickets or whatever. I mean, it's okay to have like 1 or 2 of those guys on the bill, but you can't build a whole show around it and then just sell tickets, because everyone just pays for the band they're going to see and they're going to leave, and it seems real obvious when you just talk it out. So we did that, and we were really fortunate to. I mean, that very first show we locked in a manager. Within a couple days after that, we locked in our lawyer, and then we were showcasing at SIR for like Warner Brothers, and it all like steamrolled really quick. And we had, and then after we did maybe 3 or 4 shows in LA, we just made the decision to not play LA anymore, and we put ourselves on the road, and we got in a van, and we got some independent kid booking agent out of like Minnesota, and we just toured all over the country making like $300 guarantees. And we played shows in front of anywhere between like 2 people in Lincoln, Nebraska, or we'd get on like some like a decent show in like Tennessee, and then the next time we were in Lincoln, Nebraska, we pulled 10 people, and the next time we were in Lincoln, Nebraska, we pulled 25 people, and then before you know it, shit, there's 50 people here, and oh my God, there's 100 people here. And we rounded the country about like 3 or 4 times before we actually penned a record deal. And we came, and that was one of the selling points, is like our manager was like, they were like, hey, we want to see the guys. Like, well, we can't see them, they're on tour. And they're like, oh shit. And they thought that was cool. And so we got faxed our record deal, and we signed it from somewhere on the East Coast. And we came home, signed, met the label for the first time, and when on that one trip that we went out on that last tour, we came home, and almost every one of those bands that we were doing all those Monday shows with, they all got signed at the same time. It was crazy. It was like Butcher Babies got signed, 9 Electric, Yeti. They all just got record deals, and we were like, oh shit, like it was like, from my perception of it, it didn't feel like how I perceived as a 21-year-old what it felt like to come to Hollywood and see System of a Down and Apex Theory, and and look at the pictures of Lynn Strait at the Roxy's. He had already passed at the time, but it felt like magical and powerful at that time. And then I don't know if that was our little version of that, but all I know is that we went out, and all of those bands went on to do whatever they were capable of doing, and it was so for that, in that regard, I would look at like the Hollywood scene specifically, which is probably of all the spots in the country like the most famous, because I mean New York had CBGBs, but I think they shut that thing down a long time ago.
Yeah, they did.
So LA is like the last man standing as far as like having a Sunset Strip, and we have the Whiskey and the Roxy and all these like famous places where people still freak out that, oh, Jim Morrison played here, and so that's like that's we're the only ones that have that. So it's kind of like, I think that we make a lot of the mistake is we look at the Hollywood scene as something that's like this thing that we can't control. But if you're in LA and you're making music, it's up to you to make the Hollywood scene happen.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
you're the one that has to make it fucking cool. You're the one that has to make it a camaraderie. You're not gonna do it fucking alone. No one does it alone. You have to find people that fucking matter, and they're probably gonna tell you suck, and listen to what the fuck they have to say. Get better. Keep trying. Don't give up, because at the end of the day, it's the last man standing winning. A lot of these people like to have shit to say or comments about like whatever bands that are doing whatever they're doing, but they're doing it.
Yeah,
and if you don't
That's
try,
true.
then you're never gonna make it.
And what a great way to transition into the next song.
And the next song is
Drum roll, please.
Take This.
I can't gurgle any more than Meigs can whistle.
Yeah, exactly.